it's Raywin. I apologise first of all for the sound of my voice. I have the dreaded nose rot plague that's been going around. On the tail end of it though, thankfully, but yeah, it's changed a bit how I sound. I could have put this video off a bit longer, but I've already put it off for quite a while, and it's the first day of August today, first day of spring, so happy Imbolc, happy Candlemas, whichever you prefer. And spring, it's a time of beginnings, so why not begin the YouTube Pagan Challenge? This is number 1, question 1. How did you find your path? Now, I've thought a lot about this over the last few days, few weeks, and the truth is that it's always been there for me, waiting. When I was a little girl, we actually had a property just outside of town, and I used to run amok there in nature. I used to love the vibrant yellow of the soursopes. I used to be insanely terrified but also fascinated by the cocoons of the moon moths that used to stick up out of the ground. Seriously, they looked like giants, so I dreaded to think what the size of those things could be. I had tadpoles and frogs and lizards. There was sleepy lizards in our yard all the time. Yeah, that was brilliant. I mean, I was raised Church of England, but we weren't strict about it. We never went to church, we never did mass, anything like that. In fact, the very first time I even remember being in a church was for a wedding when I was 7. Don't quote me on that one. So yeah, that was the first time I've actually even entered a church. And I mean, my parents were really quite lax about what I want to believe in. My parents both know my leanings. I'll go into more depth with that with another video. So they're pretty okay with whichever path I take, as long as I'm happy. In primary school is probably where I realised I was drawn to more alternative leanings. My brother lived with us for a little while. He was much older than I was, and he had incense. I'd never seen this before. It was amazing. It was this mystical smell and the ritual of lighting it up and carefully blowing on the end and to make it an ember. I found out later that there were ulterior motives for him lighting that incense, but we won't go into that one. There was a girl as well in my primary school, same age as me, who brought crystals to school. Now, I was always a rock kind of person. We used to go to the beach very rarely. It was a big treat, and I'd come back with buckets full of beach pebbles, maybe a few shells if they were really, really interesting. But no, I was a pebble rock kind of person. Earth witching is my leanings, as you can maybe start to gather. And these were like rocks, really cool, strange rocks. They were beautiful colours and had different meanings, and I was fascinated by it. Especially snowflake obsidian. That was my first favourite. I still remember that, actually. When I was a little bit older, still in primary school though, there was another boy. We were both outcasts, really. We didn't have that many friends. But he was interested in druids, and so we used to pretend playing at druids and collecting leaves and all of that. So yeah, I've always had those kind of leanings. In high school was when my path really crystallised for me, and I found out that there was such a thing as paganism. All my interest in nature and my reverence for animals and natural wonders was actually a thing. Sorry, I'm outside and my cats have just decided to go a bit schizo on the lawn. So it was in the 90s New Age boom as well. So not only did I find out that, hey, what I believed in actually had a name, but I suddenly had access to all these fantastic resources. Books were being published everywhere, magazines were coming out, there was Witchcraft magazine, and a special shout out there to Di Slavin, who owned the only, sadly now closed, alternative shop in my town. Thank you very much, Di, for all the guidance you gave me and all the patience you had with me, and I still have that amethyst you gave me as well, so thank you. I took for granted these resources, as teens are wont to do, unfortunately. Looking back now, I can see that, but I thought, well, they're everywhere now, so they'll always be everywhere. Oh well. As I got older, I kept dabbling in it. I still had runes. I'd made my own rune set. I read books about it and everything like that. I kept it up when I went to university, but it was more of a half-hearted kind of thing. Real life, unfortunately, was starting to take its place, and I was getting distracted by things like work and money and feeding myself. So, I mean, I tried to keep on it, dabbling in it over the last few years, but hey, it has happened. It always does. So, with life. I'm just having a little bit of technical difficulty right now, so I'm just going to pause a moment. There we go. Now, I actually have some notes written down, and of course I'm outside and the wind is blowing, so they just started to blow everywhere. So that's why the camera was shaking a little bit as well. I was just trying to keep them in place. So apologies about that. Where was I? Yes, I'd started to fall out of it, unfortunately. It still dabbles. Every now and then I'd find my magazines again and flick through them, and maintained an interest, but nothing really consistent until about 3 years ago. 3 years ago, my life started to change drastically, like huge amounts. First of all, I had an absolutely beautiful baby boy, my little bug. I'll probably mention him a few more times coming up because, well, he's 2 and into everything. So I'd always had bouts of depression since my late teens, and this culminated in me becoming very, very ill after his birth. I ended up in hospital for just over a month. But it was a good thing because I was diagnosed properly with borderline personality traits, which is a bona fide mental illness, and I'm still coming to terms with that. But I would never have found out if it wasn't for my son, so that's fantastic. That led to me having a bit of an existential crisis when I came out of hospital. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know what my mind thought of the world, everything I had known had changed because of this mental illness. It had coloured my view. Excuse me. It had coloured my view of the world. And now I understood that. But I was left with, but what is the world then? Who am I in it? I really, really needed to find my way again. And I looked into all sorts of spiritualities. I looked into Christianity, I looked into Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, all of those. But there was paganism, Wicca, waiting for me, like the patient mother, to welcome me back into her arms and reassure me. And that is what really solidified me on my path. That was a year and a half ago now, nearly 2. I have also since separated from my husband. So yeah, the last 3 years have been very, very traumatic and very volatile in regards to the changes that have happened, but it's been good. It's put me on my path, and my path is earth witchery, earth paganism. As I said before, it was like a very patient mother who lets you out in the world and knows that you're going to get hurt and knows that you're going to have trouble. But when you need her, there she is, waiting with open arms to hug you and hold you and say everything will be all right. So yeah, the answer is I found my path because it was always there. But when I needed it most, it just welcomed me back. And look at me getting teary about this. So, yes, that is how I found my path. Now, I am going to calm myself down, and I'm going to make the most of the rest of this beautiful first day of spring with the lovely sunshine and the nice cool breeze. And I hope that this video finds you well, and helps somebody else maybe find the clarification of their path. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe, feel free to comment, and I'll see you later.